Watch the video and I want you to take notes about the important elements of the audience analysis before anything else. Can everybody see my page? Can you see the video about the writing and speaking? Excellent.
Hi, this is Tony from the UNR Writing and Speaking Center. Today I want to talk about audience. When we write an email to an instructor or a text to a friend, we make rhetorical decisions. We know an instructor most likely expects us to address them more formally than we speak to our friends. On the other hand, it may seem strange and even rude to our friends if we started addressing them the way we would an instructor. We know to adjust the way we approach these different situations based on our understanding of the audience's expectations. And in social contexts, we often do this automatically. When we write, however, audience awareness requires more deliberate consideration, and it can be easy to forget we are communicating with actual people. You may have already learned about audience in a core writing course, but too often writers see their audience as passive receivers of information delivered by the writer through the text. In reality, though, meaning is not inherent to the text you create. When reading what you've written, your audience forms an idea of what you're saying in their head, based on what's on the page, along with their own knowledge, expectations, and values.
And not necessarily anything that you say might be interpreted or understood exactly the same way that you expect your audience to understand. Therefore, encoding a message, clarity and simplicity is a must.
This leaves a lot of room for confusion and misunderstanding. So it's your responsibility to speak to your audience in a way they will understand. Consider this video, for example. My audience is UNR students. Since I'm also a UNR student, I can use words like we to be more relatable. I'm using pretty informal language, but I'm not using a bunch of slang as that would feel contrived and severely date this resource. I'm using lighthearted animations to inject some humor into a dry topic and add a visual layer to complement the words I'm speaking. Bottom line, I want to speak to you, not at you. Now imagine you're writing a review of a new video game. Your audience will greatly affect what you write and how you write it. If you're writing for a blog, gamers like yourself are your audience. They're going to expect you to write about the gameplay and what you liked and didn't like about the game. You might compare it to other games to give your audience an idea of whether they'd like this game or not. And using gamer lingo would boost your credibility by showing your membership in the gamer community.
So in order to have the clarity of the message that you're communicating with your audience, simplicity is the first important step. And then clarity to avoid jargons or lingos. So we should speak clearly that everybody from any different culture must understand.
However, if you're writing for a course studying digital media, your audience will be academics and cultural critics. They'll want you to examine a game as a cultural artifact. For example, how does it treat violence? How does it portray authority figures? They'll expect you to analyze and make claims about the game and then back those up with evidence. Using gamer lingo in this situation could hurt your credibility and open the door for confusion. Thinking about your audience is one of the best ways to transfer what you learn in school to future writing situations. Like in our video game example, every audience comes with unique expectations, knowledge, and values, and these will affect what you write and how you write it. If you can understand who your audience is, not as an abstraction, but as actual people you are engaging in a conversation, you can take the time to craft your words so they'll know exactly what you're trying to say.
So remember something, when you're communicating with a group of people or one person, you need to do your research and figure out who your primary audience as well as the secondary audience might be in order to speak better or write in a proper style to communicate. When you're communicating with your audience, you need to select specific channel. Either you're communicating with your audience via email, WhatsApp, chat boxes, text messages, whatever the case may be, the channels that you select should be selected carefully. Because I give you an example. Just this last semester at U of D, I was communicating with the department that my credentials, my specific username and passwords are not effective and they're not working properly. I asked the IT department and I created a ticket. I sent them an email, my channel to communicate with the IT department to ask them to resolve this issue was email I asked them to correct it and then check. This communication went back and forth with the admin department and the IT department, and I created multiple tickets, but they could not fix the problem because they were saying something and I was saying something else. And then each person different, each time that I was creating a ticket, it was just one problem that I could not open my email and so on. Different person was responding. So my medium to communicate, or my channel to communicate with the audience, was somehow not appropriate. Why was that? The channel that you communicate with people, you need to have that clear communication. In order to have that clear communication, you must be able to have specific purpose. To have that specific purpose, you need to realize why are you communicating and how you're communicating. So, long story short, to select the channel that you're communicating with a group of audience, either primary or secondary, is as important as you select your way of communication, your grammar style, your vocabulary, the simplicity of the structure, and so on and so forth. So what I would suggest you do is select the proper channel, because at the end of the day, maybe you're communicating via email, but ask yourself this question. If that is urgent information, you can pick up the phone and contact that person to resolve the issue over the phone. Or maybe nowadays it's even easier, go through the Teams channel, for example, or Zoom. You can quickly make a phone call and then be with that person face to face for like 5 to 7 minutes to be able to clarify what the message was. As we discussed, the messages that I create from different channels and different audiences, you need to realize that different channels will serve different purposes. What I would say, we have oral communication. Oral communication, face-to-face communication, is excellent and is immediate resolve if there is an issue. There is no misunderstanding. The body language will be clearly interpreted and immediate understanding out of that. If it is the written communication, like the issue that happened, for example, in terms of the email communication with me, I had a chance to keep the record. In business communication, it is better to keep the record. Therefore, email communication, you always have the opportunity to keep track of how you write and why you write. You need to minimize your emotional message when you're writing, because everything is a document in written communication. When it comes to presentations, and imagine that you have your professors or your instructors or your teachers are asking you to have your presentation as your final assignment, you can create graphs and create complex ideas within the content of your writing and communication. When you're using the visual, for example, presentation or visual files and tables and so on, you reduce the demand of the receiver to be confused. So you save the time, the message is clear, and then there is a permanent record for everybody who is looking at your, for example, presentation. Digital communication is another issue. Nowadays, we are digitally connected. I give you an example, very interesting example. When Steve Jobs was trying to sell Apple cell phones, he had difficulties how to launch this campaign and how is he able to attract more clients to his purchase, for example, to the new product. What did he do? He talked to a group of engineers, and then he started creating an advertising motto or slogan. He said, this device will carry 5 gigabytes. All the engineers were happy, but that language was not appropriate for regular public. He was not successful in his sale in the first attempt. What did he do then? He tried to change that sentence or that remark or marketing motto. He changed it to, if you buy this device, with this device, you can carry 1,000 songs in your pocket. What happened in here? The moment that he said you can carry 1,000 songs in your pocket, everybody easily was able to understand that this device will carry their favorite music. He changed 5 gigabytes into 1,000 songs in your pocket. What did he do? He changed the wordings of the way that he's communicating. Digital communication needs clarity. You should be quick, You should be effective. You're addressing a large or vast group of audience, and you need to be clear in your communication. If I say 5 GB, not everybody would be able to understand what 5 GB is. But if I change to 1,000 song in your pocket, even the regular people who are not really highly high or tech savvy or highly educated would understand this message. So in terms of communication, you need to specifically nowadays, be simple. Keep that simplicity. In business, we call it KISS policy, KISS. Keep it super simple, all capitalized. Keep it super simple. Communication should be simple. Your style of vocabulary should be simple communication. It's not your dissertation or your university paper that you're writing, that you need advanced vocabulary. If you're communicating with the regular people, after you assess your audience, you need to select the style of your vocabulary in order to be clear. Concise communication, it takes the analysis of your audience. So when you're analyzing your audience, as I mentioned, primarily, you need to step by step, clearly analyze and try to do the research to find out who your primary audience and your secondary audience are. What is the professional way to address first and second? And what is the demographic, the gender, the age, the cultural background? And avoid that kind of complex language. If you're addressing, imagine that you're having your presentation for a group of students in front of the class. The students are speaking different languages. Do I need to make them confused by the really, really confusing, really high level advanced vocabulary? Maybe not. Depends on the topic of your presentation that you have. The next element, as we talk about, when you're processing your writing, you need to follow a few steps. The first step is, we talked about the purpose, and I think it was in July that I mentioned the purpose of your writing is allocated into 3 different purposes. We write to inform people. Most business communication is usually informative. We write to persuade people. Most sales language or marketing language. You buy a car, you buy a bicycle, you go to buy a house. This is a sales language. I need to persuade the clients to do something for me, for example. And of course, they benefit at the other end. I need to persuade them to do something. Argument writing, we talked about that. And the third one is entertainment, to inform, to persuade, and to entertain. When you write anything, you need to be aware of 3 important steps. Pre-writing is as important as revising. Outlining the idea, you spend some time to outline, to jot down your notes in bullet points. Many students miss the revision step, therefore their assignment is good enough, but it's poor in grammar, in spelling, in writing, in punctuation. So make sure you outline, you draft your first writing, and then make sure you revise after you finish. These 3 essential steps are considered as a must. Before we continue with the exercises that you're supposed to practice, I put you in a breakout rooms to practice together. I'm going to show you another video, but with this video, I want you to take notes. And then after this video that you watch, I'm going to ask you about the takeaway from this specific video. The video is about adjusting your communication style. What style do you need to pick in order to write properly?
Changing the way you talk.
Can you see my page okay? Can you see the video okay? Take notes. I need to know your takeaway after this video.
Different audiences is a communication strategy intended to show empathy, build rapport, and make people feel connected. However, it can also be offensive if it's not handled with sensitivity. I'm going to share some best practices and things to avoid when adjusting your communication style. First, consider your language and word choice carefully. For example, when speaking with people in a language that isn't their primary language, try to avoid using unnecessarily complicated words. Using simple sentence structure and simplified terms will help get your ideas across and reduce misinterpretations of your content. In thinking about your word choice, you also want to avoid idioms or colloquial language. In many respects, language is local. What I mean by this is, local communities use different words or phrases that have meanings that don't translate easily. For example, When referring to a soft drink or carbonated beverage, there are regional differences in what they're called. You may hear pop, soda, or Coke, depending on what part of the United States you're in. And there are commonly used phrases that don't translate or make sense outside of those contexts. For example, in the UK, Bob's your uncle basically means this task is easier than you expected. The first time I heard it, I was completely lost. I don't have an uncle named Bob. You can see how this might be confusing to someone who doesn't have that context. The second tip is to ask for understanding. Don't interpret someone nodding to mean they understand what you've said, agree with you, or are going to do what you've asked. It could be that they're nodding to signal they're listening attentively to what you're saying. Instead, ask them to repeat back their understanding of what you've said. You might say something like, "So, what are your next steps?" Or, "What do you take away from this discussion?" Keeping these tips in mind will help you communicate more inclusively. Next, let's turn our attention to some things you want to avoid. First, code switching or mimicking. To a certain extent, we all do this. You wouldn't talk to a baby or puppy the same way you speak to your boss. I catch myself picking back up my Southern accent when I'm visiting family in the southern part of the United States. You might overhear bilingual people on your team speak differently to family members than they do in team meetings. This isn't an invitation to join in. It generally comes across as disrespectful when you're seen as mimicking another culture. Mirroring, or when you subconsciously replicate another person's nonverbal signals, is a slightly different version of this concept. It has been seen as an effective way to connect with and build rapport with your audience. Where you want to be careful about this, intentionally or unintentionally, is using it in a way that could be interpreted as mocking. Finally, changing your volume significantly comes across as yelling. Speaking at a super slow pace implies you don't think the receiver can process your information. Either way, suddenly changing your speech patterns can be insulting to the receiver of your message. Think about it. If someone starts yelling at you, how do you feel? If you're finding yourself speaking significantly slower or louder to members on your team, you're likely making them feel uncomfortable. Effective communication is a critical foundation of inclusive teams. For a deeper dive on techniques to communicate more inclusively, I have another course on this topic.
Okay. So my first question for everybody, what is your takeaway from this video that we just watched? You can unmute yourself to speak, or you can simply type it in the chat box. What is your takeaway from this video? I'll give you a few minutes to process it, your takeaway from this video. We talk about the purpose and the audience, as well as the channel that you're communicating with. What is your takeaway from this video? I'm waiting for everyone to write down the answers in the chat box. I want everyone to participate. Liana, Melwin, Selena, Sophie, Angela. Thank you, Nelwyn. The details of an individual's speech matters and greatly impact the interpretation of the audience. Complex. Yes, very complex. That's very true. And thank you. Your takeaway from this video. Your interpretation, because that was the message that you heard. But what is your takeaway? When communicating with different types of people, they might not always understand what you're saying. You have to be very careful on how the words or things, depending on the audience. Yes, exactly. You have to be very careful on creating how your words. So you have a fragment, Angela, the last sentence. You have to be very careful on how to create your words, how you word things. Now I got it. How you word things, how that's true. How you verbalize your words depending on your audience. Correct. Thank you, Angela. I'm waiting for everybody else. Sophie, Selena, Liana. What is your takeaway from this video that we watched? Momentarily, I'm going to put you in a breakout room and I want you to discuss a not very strong memo. I give you a memo. It is written in a really, really messy way. And I want you to talk about what's wrong with it. Selena, it is important to make sure that everyone understand and use simple language. That's right. Individual communication also needs to be handled carefully. Yes, that's absolutely correct. Like I cannot use lingos, I cannot use jargons. I have to keep it simple and I have to be aware of my volume. I have to avoid unnecessary complex jargons as well. Good. What I'm going to share right now in the chat box, I want everybody to download this file that I'm sharing. This file is a memo. This memo, this exercise is called message analysis. I'm going to open this that you can see, everybody can see in here. I'm going to review that with you, but I want you to download the file. This is a memo. It is written by someone. It is written to everybody in the department, to, from, date, and subject. The subject is about the expenditure guideline. The memo is read as, after careful deliberation, I have determined it is necessary to begin the initial steps of a financial stewardship program that carries University of Ontario, through what appears to be a 2-year cycle of the severe shortfall in government funding. Beginning today, the following actions are being implemented in order to address the projected reductions in our government aid for the remainder of this year and next year. There are 3 elements. Only purchases needed to operate the university should be made so that we can begin saving to reduce the impact of the budget reductions. The second point, is requests for out-of-province travel will require approval from the executive committee to ensure that only necessary institutional travel occurs. The third point is purchases, including in-province travel and budget transfers, will require the appropriate vice presidential approval. Please understand that we are taking these prudent steps to create saving that will allow you, Ontario, to reduce the impact of the projected government cuts. Thank you for your cooperation. Your job with your teammates. I'm going to put you in a breakout room momentarily. You need to read this case study and you need to answer this question based on the channel, purpose, and the audience that we just learned how important they are. You need to figure out, based on what we have read on audience and purpose, what are your thoughts on this memo, the content and format? We talk about concision, we talk about simplicity, we talk about avoid the language, we talk about tone. In July and August, we had enough grammar practices. The second question that you need to discuss within your team to find out the answers is, did the writer choose the best delivery channel? She wrote a memo. This is an email. Is this the best channel for the message? And the third question is, are there any places you believe that the writer could be more clear? I give you 20 to 30 minutes. I put you in a breakout room. I send you the file. Can everybody confirm if you received the file? Okay, can everybody open the file? Yes, download the file, open the file, read the case study. I have to stop sharing this because when I'm sharing, I cannot create the breakout rooms. Now I'm going to create a breakout rooms. Within your breakout rooms, I'll come and check up on you. And you need to discuss the details of those 3 questions. Read the chat, read the scenario first, and then create 2 breakout rooms. I think we have enough members for Selena, Liana, and Sophie. You're going to be in room 1. Angela, Nelwyn, you're going to be in room 2. I put you in a breakout room. Download the file that I sent it in the chat box, and then start analyzing it, and then try to correct the sentence structure and find the errors and problems within the sentences. Check the time with me, 4:30, around 4:50 or 4:55. I'll bring you back. I'll come and check up on your room chats sporadically within the team, and you can ask questions. Any question before I put you in a breakout room? Enjoy. Selena, Liana, and Sophie, you need to unmute yourself and start reading the scenario and start chatting about the details of the assignment. Okay, this is a case study we are practicing. We're analyzing the way that the message and the channel and the content and the clarity of the message based on the purpose, audience, and channel that is organized. I'll come back in a few minutes to check up on you if you have any questions. Angela and Nilwyn, after reading your case study, you need to analyze the details of those questions, and you need to figure out together. It's not individual practices. You're in a room that you need to discuss the details, and I'll come back and check up on you in a few minutes. Okay?
Okay.
Could you open the file, okay, Angela and Nilwyn, with no problem?
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you. Talina, Liana, and Sophie, are you guys comfortable with the case? No question?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, keep working on it and do not only answer the questions, make sure that any other errors that you find that you feel that this writing is not communicating properly with the proper audience, you need to address it and discuss the details with your teammates. I'll come back and check up on you momentarily. Angela and Nelvin, do you have any question based on the case study that you're practicing?
No.
No.
So you answer all those three questions at the same time. You need to think about the purpose, channel, and the audience, and any other way that you feel that this communication that is done in that memo can improve in a better way. You can address it and discuss it together. I'll come back and check up on you momentarily.
Okay.
So, Sophie, Selena, and Liana, how far are you in your case study practice?
We were just discussing question 2.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Good.
Angela and Nilvin, how far are you in case study discussion question?
We're done all the questions.
Yep.
Okay. You're faster than the other team. Okay, good. So just try to think about it this way. You discuss the questions and you analyze the memo. You figured out what are some of those gaps or some of those issues in the writing. Can you see other issues? I give you a few more minutes because we're still waiting for the other students to wrap up. Okay, maybe a couple of more minutes. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that everybody's back by now. Can you see my page? What we're going to do, we have the scenario, and I asked you to discuss the details of how exactly this memo can be written in a proper way. And I need you to share your thoughts in the chat box or unmute yourself. Both ways would work with me, doesn't matter. Sophie, are you disconnected? Oh, okay, it goes and comes back. Sophie, are you still here with us? Can you hear me? Okay. Sophie, are you back? Yeah, you keep getting disconnected for some reason. I don't know why. I was just asking the other students to just share their thoughts. How exactly this memo can be written differently and can improve. I would start asking Angela. Angela, would you share your thoughts with us? Either if you like me to read in the chat box, or if you can unmute yourself, that would be quite all right. So the primary problem with this writing is really, it is messy. The question was asking you for number one, what exactly the form and the audience and the purpose, and how do you think the format and the content would be different? Angela says, Angela and the team, of course, I consider it as a team answer. Based on what we read on audience and purpose, what are the thoughts? And yeah, it is written so the contents are easy to understand. Are they easy to understand, Angela? Do you think it is wordy somehow? I found it extremely wordy and the grammar is not properly written. It gets straight to the point, really? If we read this first sentence, read it with me. Only purchases needed to operate that the university should be made so that we can begin saving to reduce the impact of the budget reduction. Can she say limit the budget? This is lack of concision, too wordy language. She could have said bullet point number one, limit the budget, with 3 words only. So there is lack of concision. And then how about group 2? Group 2, can you add your ideas? I'm reading them. For question number 2, Angela said that the best channel, it is the email, is it? Because she sent the email to all employees. The information in the memo is about the budget. Do they need to know everybody, all the employee, or only the budget department, HR department? So this information is somewhat not supposed to be sent to all employee. And look at the date. January 1st is a holiday. The time that she's communicating is awkward. And of course, the subject line that she's writing it down. So how about team 2? Can you, sorry, team 1 wrote it. Okay, team 2. Nilwin, can you write down your answer and tell me if you have any other further information? For question number 1, in terms of the audience and the purpose, I would suggest that the audience of this should not be all employees. It should be directed to the senior officials because they're talking about money that approves the budgets, and the information that is shared with all employee, it might make a mess. And how about group 2? I'm still waiting to hear the group 2. I only see Angela is sharing the answer. Thank you, Angela, for your hard work. Can the other team send the answers, please? Angela, also for the 3rd question, she mentioned that it shouldn't be acronyms writing when we are talking in formal writing. Instead of U Ontario, it should be University of Ontario. Thank you very much. That is correct. The language is very much mechanical. And it sounds obnoxious, like very arrogant. It seems like the AI created this email. You remember that we talk about connect, then lead. You need to empathize with your audience. You need to connect with your audience emotionally before you communicate. There's no emotion in here, and the writing is so dull, basically. For question number 2, as it said, like the best delivery. If I were the author, I would definitely face-to-face have a meeting with the group that I need to mention all these 3 bullet points. I wouldn't write an email because it is confusing. And the time of the email writing is January 1st, which is a holiday, is a new year. And then for the 3rd question that it said, do you think it is how do you think that it can be clear? Lack of concision. So the writing is not properly supposedly to be written. After the break time that I give you in here, we're going to start practicing better writing in class. Each session we work on different topics, and I want you to save that file. Every session we do it differently, and then you write down your answers on Google Doc. It is also saying the out of office, like the province, the distinction with the traveling, and the table would help. Like if it is the table graph that is created, it is better than just the words that is creating. So this memo is a good sample of not clear audience, not proper channel, and the purpose of writing is confusing. Needless to emphasize the specific way of writing in lack of clarity and lack of concision. I'll give you a break time. Come back at 5:20. It's 5:05 my time. I see you at 5:20. Welcome back, everyone. Selena, Liana, Nelwyn, Angela, and Sophie. What we're going to do for the next period that we have together is a document that I'm going to share with you. And I want you to practice and answer the question. Hold on a second. I'm going to open this file. So this is a true false practice before I give you individual sentences to practice. Based on the purpose, audience, and the channel that we learn, the first practice exercise is asking you, is it true, false? Can you see the page okay? Can everybody see the page okay? Perfect. So is it true, false question answer that I want you to have a practice on. Bear with me. I'm trying to adjust. So the first question is this little formative assessment. Online classes dictates to train the students and test them on the spot. So not every test that we have is like the traditional way of testing, taking the test and get the marks. That is summative assignment or summative assessment. Whatever that I usually love for my online classes is diagnostic assessment. If it's before I train the students, I ask questions to make them curious. And then formative assessment is while you're learning, you're practicing. So this assessment is a formative assessment based on what we discuss. Each question, I need everybody to participate, read and answer the question and tell me if it is true or false. Question number 1. Writers can make their messages more effective by making them purposeful, concise, audience-centered. Is that a yes, no? I want everybody to participate. Thank you, Nilwen. Thank you, Angela. Liana, Sophie, Selena. Thank you, Selena. Thank you, Liana. Sophie, are you still with us? You keep getting disconnected. Your network is a little wobbly, I guess. Yes, Sophie, thank you. Yes, it is true. The writer should write down with a correct and clear purpose, not just to avoid wordy language, and be aware of the audience. Question number 2, for a message to be effective, its purpose and its audience must complement each other. True, false. Thank you, Angela, Nilwen, thank you. Selena, thank you. Common sense, you see that? These formative assessments are very much common sense. Thank you, Selena. Sophie, Liana. Number 2. Thank you, Liana. Sophie, thank you. Number 3. It is true. Number 2, it is true. Number 1, it is true. Number 3, it is not necessary to gauge an audience's level of understanding to prepare an effective message. It is definitely false. We need to know the age, the gender, the academic background a little bit. I cannot use some kind of very higher level advanced vocabulary if I'm addressing non-academic audience. Question number 4. If your audience will be displeased with your message, you should use an indirect approach when delivering it. What do you think? Number 4. False. We never use the indirect one. Yes, we should definitely approach never implicit, but always explicit. We always directly address the message. And if it doesn't work, we definitely change the way that we are discussing, but not in an indirect way. It should be direct. Question number 5, making an outline before you begin to write adds to the time it takes to create an effective message? Yes, absolutely. It doesn't add to the time somewhat because it is a part of the process. But obviously, an outline and revision, because it is embedded within the process of your message writing, it's time consuming a little bit, but is a part of the time that you create your message. The second group of exercise is multiple choice. What is the best communication channel for the following situations? You want to persuade a colleague to apply for an open sales position in the territory that you manage. What channel is appropriate? You can say email, you can say face-to-face, you can say letter, you can say fax. Could be WhatsApp chats that nowadays everybody's connected through. I agree with the first one. If you want to persuade someone to apply for an open sales position, face-to-face is the best one. Writing, it might be confusing and not many people would be out of their patience level. You need to update your manager on the result of the sales presentation on a new client. What do you use? What kind of channel do you use? Yes, in person, it might work, but it is better to be email. It is more professional and so on. Thank you. Last one, as a travel agent, you need to contact hundreds of clients and tell them that an increase in fuel costs will force a cruise line to increase its fees. What do you say? Yes, definitely email, because A, there are many people that you're addressing. B is a policy. You need to keep the document on your end. Therefore, it is better to write to be able to do that. The next question is giving you a short scenario. Andrea, who answers customer service, calls for an insurance company, is preparing an email message to her supervisor requesting that she transferred to the accounting department. Who is her primary audience? Read that again. Process. Take it all in. Primary audience and secondary audience. Primary audience is the direct person, the first person that you're communicating with. Secondary audience is the audience that is getting affected by the message that you're creating. Primary audience is the supervisor, correct? And the secondary audience? Good work, Angela. Secondary audience? Can we say insurance company? Would that be? Yeah, very good, Angela. That's right. Primary audience is her supervisor that she's requesting the transfer, and then the company that is getting affected is the insurance company that she needs to consider it as a secondary audience. Next question is asking, how should the following sentences be revised to reflect bias-free language? We talked about non-biased language, and I mentioned how you rewrite it. How do you rewrite the first, the second, and the third? I give you a few minutes, because when you're communicating, you need to have that non-biased language. I want all of you to rewrite these 3 sentences in a non-biased or bias-free language within one message. So each one of you send me one message with all the answers. I give you a few minutes to do that. Yes, for the first one, we say the doctor studied the chart. Very good. For the second one, we say the workers removed the shattered glass. And for the third one, we say specific employees who are working on the airplane are considered as stewardess or steward, but those are, we call it sexist language, so they're biased. Instead, we need to change the employee to another word, Melvin. The new word for the people who are serving people food on the airplane is flight attendant. We don't call them steward or stewardess anymore. It's an old-fashioned vocabulary. We call it flight attendant. So the flight attendant closed the emergency door. Studied the chart, workplace removed the study, and the flight attendant, very good, yes. I want everybody else to participate. Only Angela and Melvin has been actively participating in the last little while. Selena, Liana, and Sophie, please. Sophie, your connection is okay, I hope. The last sentence you need to practice. How should the following sentence be revised to become professional writing? I'll give you a few minutes. I want everybody's answer. Take your time. So these are not professional because the terms, the words are informal. So you need to rewrite them, write them in a more professional way. Yeah, Sophie, hang loose until I get back to you. It means be patient or stay tuned, for example. Wait till I get back to you. Yes, exactly the same as Bob is your uncle, right? I don't have an uncle named Bob, right? So these kind of expressions are not formal, specifically in business writing and in professional writing. We need to avoid jargons and lingos and so on. But do we really say relax in professional writing? Relax until I get back to you. He kept calm during the crisis. Yes, number 2, I agree with that. She ran out of gas at the end of the speech. She was out of breath at the end of the speech. Is okay. That's the third one might work, Melvin. Thank you. Why don't you try the first one again? I'm still waiting for the rest of you to participate. He remained calm during the crisis. She was tired at the end of the speech. She ran out of gas. Yes. The third one, it means she was tired. Yes, she was tired at the end of, ran out of gas, it means tired. She was tired at the end of the speech. Yes. How about the second one, Angela? How about the first one? Sorry. These are basically informal speech content. Selena, Melvin, Liana, Sophie. And Angela, I wait for the next one. Melvin, refrain yourself until I get back to you. Yes, very good, very good. Selena, please wait patiently for my reply. He stayed calm during the incident. She was exhausted after the speech. Good work, Selena. Very, very easy to comprehend. Be patient until I get back to you. Angela, yes, that's good as well. Thank you. Sophie, what are you up to? Liana, what's going on your end? Sophie, please wait a moment before I get back to you. She stayed calm with the pricing and she ran out of energy. Yeah, ran out of energy. That's true. Yeah, good. Ran out of gas. Yes, very good. Liana, are you still with us? Yes, Liana, doesn't matter if your answers are similar to everybody else, because this is the same exercise that everybody's formatively practicing. The whole idea is to construct and make sentences that communicate effectively. So it doesn't matter if we are practicing these formative assignments the same. Okay, this was one of those exercises that I wanted to share with you. The next exercise would be, bear with me, I'm going to share my page with you momentarily. So this exercise booklet is the one Oh, wow. How did I get muted? Wow. Thank you. Okay. I just sent everybody a file, and I want you to open that file that I sent you in the chat box. Make sure that you save it on your computer. If you cannot open it on its own, because some PDF files through Zoom cannot get open. Once you save it, you can open it. When you open it, this is the page that you are able to see. We're going to have practices, but have this document with you because we will practice this booklet throughout the course of this semester. The whole idea is we need to have that plain language, not complicated language. And I want you to have that principle of the plain language when you're speaking to clearly communicate. The first exercise that you have, I think we have enough time to do one of these exercises. I'll go on the content or the preface. We work on the information collection, definition, applicability of the words. We talk about who made the side appeal. We talk about finality of the decision. We talk about the administrative decision, action, appealing, the statements of reason. So any kind of type of writing that we need to rewrite, we need to work around it to improve them. There are different topical lessons, I would say. The first one is pronoun and active voice. We need to use the pronouns and active voice in communication, clear communication. There are some other techniques that once you're doing it, we will work together. What I want you to do now, before I confuse you, I go with the very first lesson. We talk about pronouns. I think it was the second last lesson. I say the primary pronoun is yourself that you're talking. I, the secondary person is the person that is your audience, you. And then the third party is he or she, or in plural is considered as they. What I want you to do, I want you to rewrite the following sentences to speak more directly to the reader. What you need to do, you need to focus on the nouns and pronouns. This exercise is the pronoun exercise. And make sure that if your sentences are passive, like this one, copies of tax return must be provided. This is passive sentence. Directly when you're addressing someone, you need to have active sentences. You can open the files on your end. The first lesson is pronouns. So I will assign, I think we have 6 of them and 4 of you. So I want everybody to work on all of them, all those first 6 lessons. As you can see, all these sentences are passive and you need to write them down in more active way. I give you a few minutes. So each one of you who is sending me one message with 6 answers. This will be the last assignments. I'm going to charge my my computer. Bear with me. I'll be right back. So with this exercise, you will learn how you need to revise your own not very direct communication in any kind of content that you have. At times, we might need to have passive sentences, mostly in report writing. I use passive sentences in 3 different reasons, for 3 different reasons. If I don't want to say who did the action, I don't care who did the action, or I don't know who did the action. Usually that is the report language. Other than that, if I use passive, it's going to be very vague and very not clear communication. So what I want you to do, I want you to work on these 6 sentences. It's a PDF file, you cannot type on it. So type the answers in the chat box and I will read. Open the chat box. I want each one of you to send me one message with 6 answers. You can simply change the verbs or change the tones, would be fine. For example, the first one, if I want to make it direct communication in writing, clear, I would say you must provide your tax return, copies of tax return. Or I can say clients must provide their copies of tax return, or each citizen must return, and so on. So however you create it, you need to create an active voice in this case, for example, to have that clear communication. I'll give you a few minutes to process it. You can send the answers in the chat box. You can check all of them one by one. If you'd like, I can assign you to just save the time, maybe number 1 and 2, Selena, number 3, Liana, number 4, Angela, Number 5, no one. Number 6, Sophie. Sentences are getting a little bit longer. So your sentences were the shortest, Selena. That's why I gave you 2 of them. Do I have anyone in this class who is not following what exactly we're doing? Any question, any issues? Thank you, Selena. Selena, for number 1, said each person must provide a copy of the tax return to ensure number 2, to ensure everyone followed the procedure. I would say to ensure everyone following the procedure. We will be reviewing loan applications. Loan application will be reviewed to ensure the procedure has been followed. To ensure, can you rewrite number 2, Selena? I don't want to spoil the exercise. There is a lapse in the grammar. To ensure everyone followed is not correct grammatically, because the second sentence is in the future and the meaning is not aligned. Angela, number 4, the application will be primary source of information on circumstances for, number 4, the application will be the primary source of information regarding his or her circumstances for the purpose of determining eligibility and needs. In terms of on circumstances of determining eligibility and need. Can I change uncircumstance? Change the word, Angela, Nelwyn. Number 5, to establish eligibility for a voucher, an applicant must show the applicant has a low income and the present housing of the applicant is a standard okay, no one. You must show that you have a low income and the present housing is substandard and inadequate to establish eligibility for a voucher. Yes, that's very simple and very clear. Diana, I'm not sure how to phrase the third one. For number 3, dietary patterns. Can everyone try number 3 together? Everybody. Dietary patterns consistent with recommended dietary guidance are associated with the lower risk of mortality among individuals aged 45 to older in the United States. So patterns and guidance should be both followed for lower rate of mortality when the people are higher than 45 in US. Does that make a better sense, Liana? Number 2, to ensure everyone is following the. If you write it like this, Selena, I would say to ensure everyone who is following. Because you eliminated who, you need to eliminate is. To ensure everyone following the procedure, we call it short relative clause. To ensure everyone following. So the longest sentence would be to ensure everyone who is following. You eliminate who, you eliminate is. That's a short adjective clause. We call it somewhat of the short relative pronoun. Then you say following the procedure. You don't need is. Grammatically, is still off. Liana, if you're in the United States and 45 years or older, recommended dietary guidance are associated with the lower risk. Bravo! Excellent, Liana. You nailed it. Yes, I'm impressed. Because the whole point of talking about the dietary patterns and then the recommended dietary and so on. Good work. Sophie, what's up with you? Angela, let me read yours again. The applicant will be primary source of information regarding circumstances on determining. I don't like the word circumstances. That's my problem. Is that what you're asking, Angela? You want to say circumstances on? Why don't you change circumstances to begin with? Diana, I'm not sure what a dietary pattern. Yeah, in here they said pattern consistent with recommended dietary guidance. It means the doctor guide the patients with a specific pattern of diet or taking the diet. So it means the guidance of the doctor based on the specific pattern. That is the meaning of guidance. Oh, wow, that is the challenge. Okay, so everybody works on sentence number 6. Sophie was just asking that everybody joins her part of the story. Let's work together. Easy access to information and resources concerning long-term care issues for seniors and the disabled has been made available on a new website developed by the County Department of Community and Senior Services. So there's a kind of information bank for long-term issues that is addressing seniors and disabled people. It is available on the website, and that is developed by the County Department of the Community and Service Center. Does that make sense, Sophie? You feel better? Excellent. Try again, Sophie. What I always suggest to students when you have sentences like this, you need to chunk the sentences into phrases, comprehend piece by piece, and see how you can manage to have the proper information in one better sentence. So the way that I'm assessing you and testing you every session is called formative assessment. For online classes, we don't need every session for the students to get marked. We need to make sure that they understand by testing them constantly. So this is an assessment. It's a different types of assessment. The oldest style assessment of giving you a final test or midterm test and marking you is so outdated. No one tests anyone like that anymore. We have diagnostic and formative rather than summative. Some courses like math classes and so on, you give the students assignment, they mark the papers, that is the summative assignment. But for online classes, this is the path. Sophie, I'm still waiting to read yours and then I'm going to check out with everybody. I can say County Department of Community and Senior Services developed a website, a new website for seniors and disabled to have an easy access to information of long-term care. Does that make sense, Sophie? Now you feel like, it is easy. So when the sentences are very long, try to locate subject, verb, object, read in chunk, like piece by piece, not to miss any information. You don't add any information, you don't subtract any information. We're almost close to the end of the session. While we're waiting for Sophie to send her sentence, I'm going to check out with you. Melvin, question, concern? Yes, Sophie, go ahead. Oh, wow, you wrote and you deleted. I'm sorry. Don't worry, no rush. We still have time. Angela, any question, any feedback?
I don't have any questions, but my feedback is that I need to work on rewording sentences and passages to speak more directly to the reader.
Absolutely. And this booklet that I send it through the chat box with you, save it on your computer, because each session we're going to come back to it with a new lesson. You'll ace it soon. Thank you. Selena, any question, any feedback?
I don't have any questions, and I think I also need to work on rephrasing sentences.
Perfect. Thank you. Liana, any question, any feedback? Liana, are you still with us? Liana? Melvin, any question, any feedback?
I don't have any questions, and I also believe that I have to work on rephrasing the sentences.
Yes, yes, yes. By these exercises, formative assessments, you become stronger in revising and proofreading your own writing. Thank you, Sophie. I'm going to read your answer. Don't worry. Sophie, any question, any feedback? Okay. So for the last question, Sophie, my version would be the County Department of Community and Senior Services developed a new website for seniors and disabled individuals to access information and resources of long-term care easily. Thank you, Liana. Okay, perfect. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you next week. You did great work today. Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.